My name's Alexina, and this is my salvation story. So I've been actually wondering where to start from. And because it's quite long and quite unusual. But I think I'll start off by saying, or talking about my younger brother, because he's really much involved in this story that I have. So he got born again first. And when he got born again, my mom was really surprised by his choices. I mean, we've always gone to church, but it was usually like the normal church-going family, nothing too committed or nothing too extreme or nothing too intentional following or devotion or any of that. It was just going to church on Sundays. So when he got born again and he was praying in tongues and doing different things, my mom got a little bit scared. So she called me at the time. I wasn't in the country, and she called me and she said, "Your brother's acting strange. He says he's born again. It's all very weird. Can you talk to him?" So I said, "Okay, no, I'm due to come back very soon. So when I come back, I'll deal with it." And he and I were, or are, very close. And she knew that I was going to be able to influence him. And that was the intention. So when I came back, I asked him about what was going on with him. He said he joined SU and gotten born again. And I was like, no. We don't do that in this house. So I'm going to the club tonight. Shall we go? And unfortunately for him, I influenced him. We went to the club. I threw a party for him. I used to be the one that was throwing parties. So parties every weekend here and there with people. And, you know, at his, it was his birthday. I can't remember exactly which age. And, you know, he said, no alcohol. I was like, what do you mean no alcohol? Beers, whiskey, scotch, like anything. And so he came back to the world. And it was around Christmas. So that Christmas was when we partied the hardest, I have to say, because we'd leave home at 4 p.m. and then we'll come back the next day, like 7 a.m. And then we'll sleep, eat, and then go out again at 4 p.m. So that gives you a snippet of what my life was like. Hosting parties, pulling people from the uni to whether it's my uncle's place or the beach house, my uncle's beach house, wherever, we'll have huge parties. And the first time I actually thought about Christianity in a serious sense was my mom. She was going through something, and my auntie, who's now a pastor, she introduced him to another pastor for Deliverance. And we went to this park. He laid hands on her, she fell. He laid hands on me, I fell. And then what he said to me was, based on the anointing on your life, you can really do very well in the world, or you can really do very well in church. So you have to pick. And that's something that's always rang in my head like for years, because I didn't understand what he was saying. But it's true. I used to organize like basketball tournaments and like big events with people. And that was something that I love to do, just bringing people together and enjoying whatever it is I'm enjoying at the time. And I never smoked, but I did drink quite a bit. I never got drunk anyway, but I did drink quite a bit. I wasn't about sleeping around. I always had like a steady boyfriend. And, you know, sometimes they went to other, you know, maybe weed or something. But it wasn't something that disturbed me because I wasn't going to be influenced by it. It's really interesting, but I always made up my mind that I wasn't going to get into smoking or drugs. And I wasn't going to drink till I didn't like seeing girls falling all over the place. So it wasn't something I was really into, but then the people I dated sometimes were. At some point in time, the guy I was seeing, he also joined me in uni, and our partying even became multipled. So moving forward, we had been in a relationship for about 4 years. It didn't end up, we didn't separate on a very good note. So I was really, really down. And at that same point in time, my parents had just gotten a divorce. I didn't think it would affect me because, I mean, I'm in uni, but it really did. So I was a bit low. And I met this other gentleman I was not interested in. He was a year younger than I was, a year lower. And I just had no interest in being with him, but he was so focused on being with me that I thought that, okay, so maybe we can have some kind of a hookup situation going on. And in that hookup situation, for the first time, I'd missed that time of the month. I don't know if I can just say the word online, but I just missed it. And I'd never done anything to disappoint. My parents trusted me a lot. Although I did all this partying and all the different things, they just had so much confidence in me as a person that it really shook me to have to go and tell them that I was having a baby out of wedlock. But I wasn't really sure if it was really that, but it had been a couple days. So I never intended on being born again. Far from my mind. Not my intention. I just wanted a solution to this small problem that I was having at the time. So I just said to myself, okay, I really want to know whether I should go through with an abortion or not, because all through school they keep telling you don't have an abortion. And I like, you're killing a that you're killing a human being. So I just thought, I really don't want to have an abortion, but I really can't keep this baby and tell my parents I'm having a baby out of wedlock, because they trusted me so much. So I was just stuck, and this gentleman kept saying, keep the baby, but I knew he would, because he wanted to be with me, I didn't want to be with him, so obviously. So I just said, okay, I'm just going to take a week to see if I can hear from God, because people talk about hearing from God. So I just wanted to see if I can hear from God to make the right decision. So I went on a fast. Now during that period in time, different things kept coming to mind, things I'd heard in church growing up. Like, if you really want to hear God's voice, cut out some things. So listen to more gospel music. So I stopped listening to all the other songs, started listening to more gospel music, because I really wanted to hear. So second day, third day, still not hearing anything. Okay, so now maybe I should intensify my fast. I've heard about fruits and vegetables, so I went to buy all these fruits, which ended up going bad at the end because I didn't need that many. So I started a fast. Then I also heard, just going through the day, it would come to me, if you really want to hear his voice, you should read more. So that's when I called my brother, and I was like, okay, I know you got born again, and you went away. You may have more ideas about this than I do. So let's just have devotion like once a day. Then we went to twice a day. Then we went to 3 times a day, all trying to hear the voice of God. So on the final day, it was a Friday, I remember saying, God, if you make sure that I am not pregnant, I don't want to have an abortion. If you give me this, I promise there are certain things I'll stop doing. I'm not getting born again, but I will stop doing some things. And during that period of time, I told the guy I was hooking up with that we couldn't hook up because I want to hear the voice of God. So after the 5th day, I actually got my cycle. And I can't, for now, in any certainty say that it was God making sure that the cycle happened, because that would mean a baby was killed. But all I know is my prayer got answered, I got my cycle. So the next day, I thought, okay, so I've let go of some things, but I can still go for a hookup. So I went, and when he touched me, I slapped him. And then he thought, what's going on? So when he touched me, I slapped him, and I said, don't touch me. And he thought that I was faking it because I always didn't want to be with him. So it was just that dramatic. He couldn't just touch me anymore. So I walked out. Then I went to sit in a place they were playing, I think it was Jaru at the time. It irritated me so much. I left and I went to my room. So I just could not go back to where I was, but I didn't actually want to move forward. I was like stuck in the middle because during that period, what I know now was God had touched me during that period, and it was a done deal. So moving forward, I just said, okay, since I can't go back, let me just keep going forward. So now this gentleman joined me in this journey. He's born again at this present time, a pastor. So he joined me along with my younger brother, and we, prayed, fasted, going forward. I had just graduated. I was really looking forward to the last clubbing day, but didn't end up going because I just couldn't imagine being in the club anymore. And we moved to, my mama just moved to Ebri. So we moved to Ebri, and for 6 months, all we did was prayed, listened to the word. We didn't have any, because we didn't get born again in church, there wasn't a pastor that we could call. And so anytime we had questions about the Bible, there'll be a TBN preaching on that particular topic. So that's how we were being groomed. It was TBN and prayers. We'd pray through the night because we didn't have an option but to pray through the night, because there were so many spiritual attacks, and it wasn't spiritual attacks they were physical spiritual attacks. Like the atmosphere will open and things will start pouring into the, like, footsteps. People's, like, sometimes we'll be praying and my brother's getting slapped all over the place. Like, it was right there. So you wouldn't sleep at night because we couldn't sleep at night. There was no peace of mind to sleep at night. So we'll pray through the night. Come morning, we'll sleep a little bit. Then the rest of the day, we'll watch TBN. Then we'll pray through the night. And that's how we were groomed. Now, finally, how we ended up going to a church was we were praying and we had anointed the whole house. We anointed the doors. There was like with crosses, with anointing oil with crosses. They're still there, actually. I was quite surprised to find that how many years later, I'm talking about 17 years ago, when we went there recently, the crosses were still on the doors. So I thought that was really awesome. But that particular day had really started raining, and we were praying really hard. And for some strange reason, the wall behind the house collapsed, and it hit a lot of brown water into the house. So like where we were standing, it just splashed brown water into the house. There were screams and different things. So I just said to him, now where the spiritual battle has gotten to, I can't handle it. But we had approached the pastor, Manet. My dad was living at Manet, my mom was at Ibri. So at Manet, we had approached the pastor there with different questions, and he had mentioned that Deliverance ministry was at a certain place in Hacho, and we knew the place. So when that happened, I said, okay, let's pack our bags, let's drive straight to this place and get some help from the pastor that was there. And while we were driving, speeding through the rain, my brother was driving. There was a woman chasing the car on the side, like through the forest. So I was watching her. I can still remember what she looked like. I was watching her as she chased us down into the bottom of the hill. And so we went straight to the church and we said, okay, where we are, we're butchers got born again. Not by intention. We are praying. God is really moving. There are things chasing us, things beating us, things scratching us. Someone help us. So the man of God there at the time just said, okay, Deliverance ministry, they took us through, like, so the first day we went, the second day we went, the third day he said, okay, they're fine. I'm going to groom them in prayer. So he locked us in a room and said, start praying. And we just looked at, we were used to praying for hours because we had been praying through the night, but we didn't expect that. So he would lock us in there for days, and he would come in, and then we'll just spend time in prayer and prayer and prayer and prayer and prayer. And I'm really still grateful for that experience that we had, quite honestly. It was harsh, but it really helped us. So after that, I was going to start my national service, so we moved to my dad's place. And when we moved to my dad's place, I then got a word that we had to start prayer ministry in the Manette branch there. And nobody knew us in the church. So it felt really strange to me. Like, we're just going to get up and go there and say, we're come to have prayers. It doesn't make sense. So while I was sleeping, he started giving me names. So quite interesting. The names that were coming to when I went to the church actually met the people. So he gave me 5 names. When I went to church, they actually existed. And 2 other people joined in as time went on. And he actually said to me, I forgot an exact date, but that date, he said, call the man who was the man of God who was helping us at the time, and another man of God we had met at a teen camp, Spirit. I'm sure you all know him from Mashesi. Yeah. So he said, call these 2 people and let them anoint you guys, and you form a prayer warrior team. I wasn't very convinced I was hearing right, so I just called Spirit. I didn't call the man of God that was helping us. But coincidentally, at the moment when everybody came together for me to explain what was happening, he just called in and showed up and said, I'm at the church. He felt led to come to the church, so he prayed over us. And then we started this team. Now, this gentleman that I had, since I don't know who had gotten me pregnant but gotten born again, or whether or not pregnant, you all know that. Whatever, that gentleman had just received a scholarship to go to China, so he left. He was part of the prayer team, but he left. And I had no intention of following up with him because I thought, we're never meant to be together. It was just that period of time, and it was over. But that December, going to January, the 31st night, when I slept, I dreamt that I was on a plane going somewhere. And when I woke up, God said, in February, you're going to get a present. Come July, you will not be in Ghana anymore. But I thought it was my mind. So in February, my dad said to me, you're going to China. And I said, but why am I going to China? Then I remembered what God said, and I knew he was there. So I said, okay. I called him, I said, okay, I'm not applying because I have no intention. I just started work. I was head of corporate affairs at GT Bank. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going up and up, But he said, go see the consular, find out. So I just said to the consular, put me in any school. Put me in any school anywhere, in any region, I'm not going anyway. So it's not a problem. So, but I knew he said to me, July, I must have had my bags packed because I'm going. So I was really paying attention in July. So July 30th, I was like, thank God, nothing happened. It was just my mind. July 31st, they said, your father is in the conference room looking for you. I went there and he said, you're going to China, pack your bags. I was like, okay. So now I know for sure that I'm meant to be going to China. So I packed my stuff, went to China. It wasn't about the guy, it was about ministry. Because in China, for about 10 years, what God did was he used me I joined a particular group called the International Students Christian Council, and we went around China preaching and bringing people to Christ. And I know we had huge conferences of, hundreds, thousands. And at the time, I was the only woman on the team. So all the women used to come and, counseling. Quite an interesting 10 years. And God was really faithful in that period of time. Where did that take me? I got a bit proud because I started seeing myself as, that instrument of God. Like, yeah, when you mention my name, when you mention my name, so forth and so forth. So I had an accident. I had a bike accident, and I'd never really been sick in that period of time when I'd gone born again. I was not sick. Even if I was sick, maybe a day or two, I'm out. I was never seriously ill. But then I was in this accident and I needed emergency surgery. And in my mind, in 2 weeks, I was going to be fine. Or it was all going to be fine, really, really fast. But then I had this surgery and it wasn't happening. 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. And I started getting angry with God. How could you let this happen to me? And at that point in time, I also found I was pregnant. I was pregnant in a wheelchair, praying to be healed, not getting healed, being very angry. And my relationship with God was really shaky at that point in time. And it was all based on the pride and misunderstanding. And so there was one day he spoke to me and said, you've gotten really, really proud. You need to step down. So I stepped down from every chair. I was chairman at the time. Every chair that I was on, everything I was doing, I just shut it all down and let myself open to him to use me the way he wanted to use me. And one thing I've always had, let me be honest, because for me, my walk with God, after reading David, I said I'm always going to be very honest, very open. So at that point in time, I always said to him, I need a man of God in my life who's going to lead and guide me, not just a voice, you know. And so that was one issue. That was one issue with me. And so I always used to say to him that, send me someone, let that person lay hands on me, and let me be healed, and let me move on with my life. And why aren't you sending me someone? And would get into, I was just a mess at that point in time in my walk with him. Moving forward, I did get healed. It took a long time, took a year. I used to go to work in a wheelchair. Sometimes I would sit at work crying because I'm pregnant, in a wheelchair. My health was just all over the place. But I know that it was an experience now, looking back, that God needed me to have, to understand that just because you're born again, all the different things He brings to you and you're blessed, doesn't mean that, first of all, it doesn't mean that you're better than anyone, which is what I started thinking. Doesn't mean that you will not face adversity, and doesn't mean that He will not discipline you when you need to be disciplined. And that through all of that, I can say for sure that all of that was a blessing to me. Because fast forward, I can see how He used that experience to really talk to me and to make me more, like to give me empathy with others. Because sometimes I think to myself, but why are you sick? Are you praying? Do you read the Word of God? Are you born again? I don't understand what, like I got into that space. I got into that space where I was like, how could you have any issues? Don't you have God in your life? But this experience really brought me to that point where I understood that just because someone is going through something doesn't mean they don't have Christ in their life. God teaches us through different methods, and everything works together for good. So I really appreciate that experience I had. So at this point in time, where am I at this point in time? God sent to me a friend, and she's now a sister. She's a pastor from South Africa, very anointed woman of God. And He used her to show me someone in ministry, a woman that didn't have to become who I became. So I really appreciate her in my life. And the last 2 weeks, I'm turning 40 very soon. I was asking God, like, what would my testimony be? And all I could say was, He's a very good God. Everything wrapped up together, my conclusion is, God is a very good God. He uses every single thing. I went to China, that's where I met my husband. That's another story. That's where I met my husband. We came to Ghana not because we wanted to come to Ghana, but because COVID kept us in Ghana. Long story, get into that another day. But I really come to see how God uses every single experience in your life to be a blessing to you. And I'm so excited for the future. I'm excited about what God is going to be doing in our lives and through our lives. I shut down completely for a long period of time. I know I'm back again, and I'm looking forward to what He's going to be doing. Any questions?